Now that the X-Men movie rights are finally back in Marvel's hands, MCU fans are running wild with speculation as to which mutants might show up in the franchise first. From A-list icons to ambitious wildcards, here are the X-Men who most deserve a place in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. 2018's Black Panther was more than just a huge moneymaker for Marvel Studios. Sure, it grossed a cool $1.3 billion at the box office, but it also kicked the franchise up a notch by introducing a genuinely compelling villain, a thought-provoking premise, and arguably the best MCU romance to date. But while Lupita Nyong'o and Chadwick Boseman shared some undeniable chemistry, as Nakia and T'Challa, the King of Wakanda actually married someone completely different in the comics, Ororo Munroe, also known as Storm. In comic lore, Ororo and T'Challa first met as children when she used her weather-manipulating powers to save the young prince from a kidnapping in Africa. The two young lovers remained close throughout the years, eventually marrying in 2006. Although they eventually had their marriage annulled after the events of the Avengers vs. X-Men storyline in 2012, they still shared a good 6 years of marital bliss. With Black Panther 2 officially slated for release on May 6, 2022, Marvel has the perfect opportunity to introduce Storm while staying true to the source material. Back in February 2018, comicbook.com asked director Ryan Coogler about a potential Storm sighting in a future sequel. He replied, "I don't know enough about that acquisition to even talk about it. If it's something that goes through, I can't think of better hands for those characters to be in than Kevin Feige." With the rights finally in hand, a storm may indeed be brewing for Black Panther 2. He may not have been a part of the original comics team, but these days it's hard to imagine the X-Men without Wolverine. Hugh Jackman played the iconic role for 17 years and 9 movies before finally deciding to hang up his claws after 2017's wildly successful swan song, Logan. And while Wolverine might be pivotal to the X-Men universe, his first major comic book appearance didn't have anything to do with them. Logan's first outing was in 1974's Incredible Hulk number 181, in which he first fought the Jade Giant. Yes, he appeared in the last panel of the prior issue, but we said fought, so relax. What could this mean for the MCU? Obviously, you could make the argument that it would be fitting to introduce Wolverine in a future Hulk project, either on Disney Plus or on the silver screen. Given that Mark Ruffalo's Bruce Banner lived through the events of Endgame, you'd have to assume that Bruce will show up in the MCU again too, right? So what better way to bring him back than to have him square off against an ultra-powerful threat like Wolverine? Most MCU fans were pretty excited to hear that Tom Hiddleston's Loki would be getting his own streaming series on Disney+. And given that Endgame's alternate reality version of Loki is still hell-bent on world domination, it sounds like the ambitious trickster will be getting back to his villainous ways.
Surprise!
In the comics, Loki once captured one of the original X-Men, Iceman, to try and use his freezing powers to make his frost giants stronger. Given that MCU's Loki is also portrayed as the heir to Jotunheim, the land of the frost giants, it's possible that Hiddleston's iteration of the character will try this ploy too. Bobby Drake's Iceman, one of the founding members of the X-Men, has seen his popularity grow throughout the years, but that's not just because of his incredible ice-powered abilities. In 2015, he came out as gay, making him an important figure for representation in comics, the kind of representation that's long overdue in the MCU. Of course, tying your hopes to the god of mischief is usually a fool's errand, and only time will tell what Loki has up his sleeve for his own series. Comic book fans might know that Carol Danvers has a seriously twisted history with longtime X-Men member Rogue, whose absorption powers made her one of the X-Men's most formidable members. Their beef began when Rogue, while working with Mystique and the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, drained Carol's powers and memories, stealing her powers of flight and super strength. Although Carol eventually reclaimed her identity and abilities, she and Rogue have remained fierce rivals throughout the years. Of course, the Fox version of Rogue never got to do anything this cool, and that's because Fox didn't have the rights to Carol Danvers, so they obviously couldn't give her that backstory in the first place. Now that Marvel has reclaimed their mutants, however, it's entirely possible that fans might actually get a comic-accurate version of Rogue in the MCU. And where better to debut her than in Captain Marvel 2? Poor Channing Tatum. For years, the Magic Mike star has been vying for a Gambit movie with himself in the titular role. Sadly, it's looking more and more like that film is never going to happen. But maybe there's another way Tatum can play the role of the Raging Cajun. One of the many streaming services on the upcoming Disney Plus roster is Hawkeye. a show focusing on Jeremy Renner's Archer Avenger. Despite his involvement in the Avengers movies, Renner's Clint Barton isn't really perceived as an A-list MCU character. As such, his series isn't quite as hotly anticipated as, say, Loki or WandaVision. Perhaps a great way to inject some much-needed pizzazz into Hawkeye would be to give Channing Tatum what he's always wanted, a chance to play Gambit. The two heroes have crossed paths in the comics, so it's not an entirely unprecedented move. They both have somewhat similar powers, too, with Barton's bow precision being comparable to Gambit's explosive card-throwing accuracy. And whether you have them at odds or teaming up, it does seem like a great way to lend some hype to a show that could probably use it. One of the many lasting impacts of Endgame is that Gamora, longtime member of the Guardians of the Galaxy, is no longer the same character fans have grown to love. Her whole existence was thrown upside down due to the 1-2 punch of her sacrifice for the Soul Stone at the hands of Thanos, and the repercussions of the Avengers time heist. Now, the MCU is home to a Gamora who is alive but who hasn't gone on the journey fans have witnessed, with no memories of her time with the Guardians or Peter Quill. But don't cry for Star-Lord just yet, because there could be a new flame appearing in his near future. Enter Kitty Pryde, the spunky, wall-phasing member of the X-Men. In recent years, Pryde has developed a strong bond with Peter Quill. They first met when the X-Men and Guardians teamed up on a space mission involving the Shi'ar alien race. After completing the mission, the two lovebirds remained close, giving the term long-distance relationship a whole new meaning. Although Fox's X-Men movies did include the Kitty Pryde character, you could argue that her minor role in that universe didn't really do her justice. This is a character who has done some seriously impressive things on the page, including traveling through time and even killing Wolverine. So here's hoping a more comic-accurate Pryde makes her debut in the MCU sometime soon. James Wan's Aquaman hit theaters in 2018, dominating the box office worldwide with a gross of a whopping $1.1 billion. Now, for seemingly the first time in the past 10 years, Marvel is staring at an opportunity to take a page from the DCEU's playbook and try to capitalize on the muscle-bound Fishman craze. One of Marvel's first ever characters was Namor the Submariner, King of Atlantis. It's been more than 80 years since his on-page debut, and although he has fought both for and against the heroes of the Marvel Universe during that time, he is widely considered a good guy. He became an official member of the Avengers in 1985, but more recently he joined the Uncanny X-Men in their 2009 comic run. Namor's affiliation with the X-Men has actually earned him a powerful rival in the past 10 years, Wakanda's King T'Challa. During the Epic Adventures vs. X-Men comic event, a Phoenix Force-corrupted Namor even went so far as to attack Wakanda with his Atlantean army, bringing great destruction to the African nation. Should Marvel choose to bring their first mutant into the MCU, Black Panther 2 would be a great place to do so. There was even a potential Easter egg in Avengers Endgame that fans believe hinted to his arrival, with Okoye mentioning a suboceanic earthquake off the coast of Africa.
It was a mild subduction under the African plate.
Do we have a visual? How are we handling it?
Net. It's an earthquake under the ocean.
Fingers crossed for a clash of kings in T'Challa's next solo outing. When Jubilee joined the X-Men at the dawn of the 1990s, she became one of the youngest members of the team's roster. A mutant capable of shooting firework-like energy plasmoids out of her hands, the young Chinese-American heroine quickly became a fan favorite due to her quirky personality and dazzling appeal. However, after a run-in with a certain foe, she became much more than just a mutant. In the Curse of the Mutants crossover event in 2011, the X-Men found themselves going toe-to-toe with vampires. Yeah, vampires. Anyways, in the comics, Jubilee was bitten by Zarus, the son of Dracula, and actually became a vampire herself, making use of a special amulet that allowed her to walk in the sun. Why should a vampiric mutant earn an early invitation to the MCU? Because the Daywalker himself, Blade, is coming soon to a theater near you. If Feige and company add a fan favorite like Jubes to Oscar winner Mahershala Ali's MCU debut, the hype will be unreal. Talk about an explosive opening weekend. Any mutant fan will know that Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver are the biological children of X-Men's supervillain Magneto. But you might not know that the twins actually have a secret, lesser-known sibling, Lorna Dane, the green-haired mutant also known as Polaris. In the comics, Polaris shares similar abilities to those of her father, being able to manipulate magnetic fields and lift metals. Although she's had her fair share of conflicts with both heroes and villains, she eventually joined the X-Men after they saved her from the mutant-hunting Sentinels. Although Emma Dumont already portrayed her on FX's X-Men affiliated series The Gifted, there's no reason why the MCU couldn't adapt their own version of the character. Should Disney Plus's WandaVision choose to dive into more of Wanda's origin story, discovering a secretly gifted half-sister like Polaris could make for a juicy plot twist. Check out one of our newest videos right here, plus even more Looper videos about the MCU are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.